Harry Potter and the Adventures in AI is written and read by an AI. Chapter 2. They arrived at the ministry early and walked in through the large double doors with the number 666 engraved into it. Harry, Ron and Hermione ran through the corridors fearing they were late. "Come on, we need to go to Hogwarts," Harry yelled, running as fast as he could. "I'm getting a cramp." Ron complained. "I shan't miss the train, because of you two." Hermione snapped. "No you won't, because we're going to be late, and then Professor McGonagall will yell at us. Which means we'll have detention, which means more homework, and probably even a detention. So hurry up," Harry yelled before he began to run faster. Hermione and Ron followed suit. They caught up to Harry, and he ran straight to his classroom. Hermione and Ron walked into the room just in time to see Professor McGonagall, who looked angry, slam her book closed. Her eyes landed first on Harry, then on Hermione and Ron. Then they narrowed at Ron. "Late again, Potter?" she asked it in a cold tone of voice. "Yes ma'am," answered Harry in a sheepish voice. But Hermione wasn't listening. Harry added, looking towards Hermione accusingly. "Well, Miss Granger, you've been late twice today, and this is your third. If it continues, you shall receive detention as well." Harry glared at Hermione, but she ignored it and looked up at Professor McGonagall. "Professor, please, can't I be excused? My friend here got into a fight yesterday and he has the flu," Hermione pleaded, knowing full well that if she wasn't excused, there would be a great deal of trouble in the future. But she also knew how stubborn McGonagall could be. She wouldn't listen to any other excuse. A vein popped on her forehead and the skin above her eyebrow tightened. Hermione knew how scary this woman could look when she was pissed. "Miss Granger, it's bad enough that I have to punish you for being absent on your birthday. I do not appreciate being punished for something else. Besides, it's only Thursday. You have the weekend ahead of you, so I suggest that you spend that time studying. And next time don't bring that ridiculous dog." Hermione's jaw dropped. The nerve, she thought, clenching her hands into fists. The dog was adorable and really didn't mean anything. "I'm not a dog," snapped Ron as Harry chuckled behind him. "I am a dragon, thank you very much," Ron added angrily. Hermione rolled her eyes, ignoring all the snickering coming from her friends. McGonagall glared at Ron, and walked away without another word. Hermione sighed and sat down in her usual seat behind Ron, taking a sip of juice. "That was amazing," said Harry, grinning at Hermione. "Yeah," agreed Ron. "You should have seen her face when you called her a dog." Hermione laughed. "I know, right? So, what are we doing today?" Hermione asked Ron. She loved hanging out with him. He was so nice, smart, and funny, she couldn't imagine herself anywhere else but sitting at his table with him. They were best friends, after all. "Oh yeah. Well, it turns out, Voldemort is back," Ron said stupidly. "You're an idiot," Harry snapped, shaking his head disapprovingly. "Why would he come back?" Ron shrugged. "Well, he did in my dream last night." Harry sighed. "Well, we won't find out about it by standing around gawking at each other like two morons. Let's start searching." The four Gryffindors searched through old boxes of books until they finally managed to discover a small piece of paper in between several old textbooks. It was covered in writing, but the writing was so faded that it almost disappeared. It read, "To whom it may concern, you must make sure that your pet, Mr. Basilisk, stays hidden during your time at the Ministry of Magic. It will help to avoid being found out. Signed, your true enemy, Rabastan Lestrange. P.S. Don't touch the snake." When they saw this name, Harry, Ron and Hermione gasped. They immediately began reading the note over again, trying to determine what this was all about, but no matter how many times they reread it, none of them could understand what it meant. All they could think about was the letter. Who was Robust and Lestrange? How could a rat have gotten a hold of something this dangerous? Why would the snake be kept hidden at all? And most importantly, who the hell is R.L. Stinn? Hey guys, said George, entering the library, looking annoyed, and holding Fred's broom. George put Fred's broom under his arm and looked at them. Did you get those notes? George asked, pointing towards the note Hermione held. It says basilisk, Ron said, turning over the note in disbelief. There is no way R.L. Stinn is a rat. There's no way anyone's a rat. What if it's one of Dumbledore's pets? We don't know where R.L. Stinn lives, or who is working for Dumbledore. George let out a long sigh, placing his free hand on his hip. Calm down, Ronald. No one believes that there is a snake living in Hogwarts, and besides, Dumbledore's been dead for years. It wouldn't be that hard for someone to get a hold of the information about it. I mean, how hard would it be for him to steal an animagus form or something, right? Everyone stared at George with wide eyes. I have got to stop spending too much time in Slytherin, Ron replied as he rubbed his temples with his fingers. What did you say, Weasley? Asked an unfamiliar voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a boy, maybe 17 or 18, with black hair that was pulled back into a small ponytail. He was wearing dark grey robes that were tucked into black leather boots. In his hand was a sword in its scabbard. The scabbard looked like it had once belonged to a knight, judging from the golden lion crest. His face and eyes were covered with thick black goggles made with a reflective surface. Ah! You must be Mr. Malfoy, I presume, Harry said with disgust. Lucius Malfoy had gone goth since Dumbledore's death. He wore dark clothes with a black cape draped over his shoulders. He also looked completely different. His facial features had changed from a handsome aristocratic appearance to a cruel and arrogant mask. He seemed less intelligent and calculating, and now seemed more sinister and dangerous. You're quite correct, Lucius responded in a deep voice. What does he want? Ron mumbled under his breath to Hermione, who shook her head slightly. Malfoy smiled, revealing teeth which were very pointed and yellow. Do you recognize me? He asked, looking at Ron, his eyes narrowing dangerously. You look ridiculous. Ron laughed, mocking Lucius' goth look. Shut up. Now tell me, how did my son get so badly injured? Lucius snapped at the trio, glaring at them as though they had insulted him personally. Hermione looked nervously at Ron, who looked nervous about whatever it was Lucius wanted to hear. Sir, it's just a scratch, nothing serious, explained Ron, shifting uncomfortably under Lucius' gaze. He lost his testicles, Lucius shouted, causing the entire library to look up from their work and stare at them incredulously. Hermione bit back a smile, enjoying the attention she was getting. What's wrong with losing his testicles? Harry questioned, frowning at Lucius. They're perfectly normal, unlike some people's, he added, staring at Lucius with a glare. Hermione gave Harry a look telling him it wasn't the appropriate time. She glanced quickly at Ron before continuing. Well, sir, it isn't a good idea to lose such valuable parts of the body. I guess you know that. After all, if you don't lose them, then the person you're having sex with can have a very unpleasant accident, said Hermione, raising a brow at Lucius' shocked expression and then at Draco's smug one as he randomly appeared. Harry nodded approvingly at Hermione's response, but frowned as he glanced at Lucius. If the testicles are important to you, why not use something that works better? Like a laser pointer or maybe even a penknife? Said Harry, smirking at the surprised look on Draco's face. "No. Not possible. How do you expect me to carry on the Malfoy name?" Draco wailed. Ron laughed and got a small punch to the arm by Hermione, telling him to stop. The boys just stared at them amused, knowing what Hermione was trying to convey without saying a thing. "But sir, they look painful," added Ron, laughing. "I know, they're horrible. But they serve the cause and are incredibly useful as weapons. Especially in battle." Lucius defended himself, crossing his arms angrily. "Are you going to replace them, sir?" Ron asked innocently. Lucius opened his mouth to say something, but closed it once he realized he didn't have any arguments left to say. "All right," said Hermione. "Let's move on." The five spent the next couple days searching everywhere they could for information about what Voldemort was planning. They came across several copies of the Daily Prophet, but they were always filled with stories about Voldemort. Some of them sounded like they were made up, like how he was supposed to be defeated when he killed Cedric Diggory. Others sounded exactly like them but contained details of various things which hadn't actually happened. In the end they had given up hope. When they went upstairs to bed that night, they couldn't sleep. Hermione felt exhausted and had decided that she needed to go back to the common room.